Hey everyone, and welcome to this session live stream. This time, I have a very special guest, also a friend of mine, Ryan Schaller. He worked on many great animated films over at Cinesite. This session, we're just going to talk a lot about how you break into the industry, or more likely, giving tips for how animators who wants to break into the feature film industry, what they need to do. You're a supervisor over there right now, right, Ryan? So,
Yes.
so you probably shift through like tons of demo reels. For the people who don't know who you are, Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you get into animation? Kind of like your journey, your animator's journey, sort of thing.
My journey. Okay, so yeah, I'm Ryan Schaller. As Kwok said, I've kind of always been interested in animation. So my journey's kind of been, yeah, I've in the early days, I'm trying to figure out like, how do I, like, when you're a kid and you're exploring, you're like watching cartoons, you're watching movies, and you're just like, I wish I know how to make these. This looks like a really fun job to do. So I've always been interested in it. I think, education wise, I went to University of Maine for a 4-year program. Didn't get me in the industry, but while I was there, I learned a lot of filmmaking techniques and studied film and did a lot of neat stuff that ended up being useful and relevant later. Just not immediately relevant in getting my first job. But this was around the time that online colleges started really kicking off. Nowadays, there's like a dozen online colleges you can choose from, and that's great. But back then, it was really just Animation Mentor, and so I heard about that, and I was like, hey, this seems like something that you know it's 100% focused on learning animation, which is great. I think I would say that's one of the probably the biggest tips if you're trying to get into animation is to really focus on the animation, because it's useful having a generalist knowledge of stuff, but studios, especially feature studios, don't generally hire generalists. They'll hire someone for a specific role, so you'll be hired for animation, or you'll be hired for modeling, for lighting. So Animation Mentor really helped me hone my craft and work with some of the best people in the industry at the time, to learn. Ultimately, that's what got me my first job as well. I interned at Leica Studios in Portland. It was for those who know, or they used to have 2 divisions. They had their feature division, which everyone knows about. At the time they were actually working on Paranorman, but they also had what they called Leica House, which no longer exists. I think it's called House Special now, and that kind of is their everything else. So they have the feature division and they have the everything else division. So I was working on commercials, and their everything else division would also do stop motion stuff. I think they were working on the stop motion sequence for Harold and Kumar 3 at the time as well. So they do kind of everything. But that's what got me into, that's what essentially got my foot in the door. From there, landed a job doing television in Auckland, New Zealand. I was working at a studio called October, and worked on a number of Nickelodeon cartoons. So like Robot Monster, Kung Fu Panda, Monsters vs. Aliens. Did some tests for like other shows and whatnot, and that was very helpful because it taught me how to work fast. So like I learned how to do it. Now how do I do it faster? How do I do it more efficiently? How do I really focus on what needs to be focused on? From there, I worked a brief stint on the Smurfs 2, which was only 3 months, but that was my first feature job, and I was like, at that point, I was like, oh yes, I finally broke into the feature industry. I'm finally in. I've broken into the feature industry. Now it's all going to be smooth sailing from here. And then I was at a job for like a year because I think it was a dip. There was a dip in the industry at the time, and there just wasn't much. Like I couldn't get a job anywhere.
Yeah. Those job fair or just convention sort of thing just helps like with the networking. Like it may seem like you might not want to do it, but it helps just open so many new doors, even though like more than you think it would, than just like applying online all the time. That
Yeah,
although times has changed a bit now, it is pretty much applying online all the time. But but if there's opportunity for convention, I'm sure that's a better
it does.
option.
I think it does help. Like I think people are more likely to see you as a person if they met you as a person, right?
Yeah.
Um, even if it's even if it's online. I mean, I think that was one of the nice things, the nice benefits to like online schooling at the time for Animation Mentor was that yeah, I was learning animation, but I was also working with people who are currently animators, and so like one of my mentors was at Leica, and that's part. I think again that's partly why I probably got the Leica job was because he knew me from one of the classes and was like, hey, yeah, well, you seem like you're competent enough, so
You seems like you can do things.
yeah. Yeah, I
um,
think networking is pretty important, especially when you're trying to break in. I think that's it's very useful. It's very useful for sure.
yeah, no, no, definitely. Well, I guess now that you're more of a in the supervisor role, what kind of well, when you shift through all of the roles and whatnot, uh, what kind of stand out to you when you uh, go through all of the demo reels? Is it like you look for good acting, good body mechanics, or yeah, what makes a good reel
Yeah,
for Cinesite or feature?
I'll say that I'll often cater what I'm looking for based on the show.
Mm,
So, for example, I see we're playing a short clip of Animal Farm.
mm,
Animal Farm was interesting. That was my first show that I 100% supervised. So there wasn't it wasn't a co-soup. I wasn't a lead or anything like that. I was day one to the last day. It was my full time. It was my life. So special to me in that regard. But for Animal Farm specifically, as you can guess, lots of quads. We were going for a style that was not realistic, but very naturalistic. We wanted very believable body mechanics for the animals. We wanted them to feel like pigs, or we wanted them to feel like cows, feel like sheep, feel like horses. But as you can see, style wise, they don't. It's not realistic. It's not VFX. This
mm,
it kind of lives in that sort of realm in between where it's like it feels believable, it feels tangible, but it's not unsettling real or anything like that. And so I was for Animal Farm specifically, I was really looking for obviously I'm looking for acting. I'm always looking for acting because I think acting is for feature it's one of the most important things. But for Animal Farm specifically, I was looking for quads and quads and naturalistic performances. Again, naturalistic doesn't mean realistic. It just means it feels believable. Like Disney is often naturalistic acting, um, but it's not. It's obviously not realistic. It's just believable.
what would you say if like an animator or aspiring animator who tries to get into feature film doesn't have any um, acting piece in their work? Would you tell them to just hey do some personal work, or would you still have to apply, and hopefully you could still get, or would there be a chance of you getting to feature if you don't have any acting shot?
I'd say there's always a chance,
Mm,
but your chance does go down.
mm,
But part of it, I mean, again, part of it is that when we're hiring, there is a bit of context involved as well. Like if I'm hiring for a senior, then
mm,
my expectation for what I see on the reel is very different than if I'm hiring for a junior or for a crowd person. Like I'm
right.
not expecting excuse me, if I'm hiring for excuse me, if I'm hiring for crowds, I'm not looking for a mind-blowing reel. Although if it
Mm.
is, that's great. Fantastic. We'll take it and we'll nurture you and you'll grow up in the ranks as well and get out of crowds and go to junior animation and then mid animation and whatnot. But I know what's realistic, and oftentimes because the salaries, crowd animator salaries are at a certain level, and so those don't tend to appeal to people who are 15 years in the industry.
Mm.
It's really more designed as a entry level job, right? As
Right.
coming out of school. So I would say, like, if I'm hiring for that, I keep that in mind, and I don't fault them if they don't have acting, because I mean, again, most of the time for crowds, acting is kind of second. I would say acting is secondary. Yeah, like I think there's a little bit of it with some idols and whatnot, but a lot of it is cycle building. It's populating and just keeping the area feeling alive and
Right.
at a certain energy level. But as far as the specifics of what they're doing, you can get away with a lot. If you sit down and watch some films and you just focus on the crowds, you can see that a lot of times they're pretty basic, but you never notice it unless you're specifically looking for it. So, but I think it's still useful as a even if you're not getting anything like amazing demo reel wise out of it, it's still very useful for us, like in the supervisory roles to
Right.
we'll see how you work, what's your work ethic like, how do you take notes, how do you take direction, and really that's kind of the tricky thing about a demo reel is that, and this is probably the biggest thing that I've learned after going into the supervisor role, is that it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because like demo reel is great. I could see what you can do,
Mm.
but it doesn't give me the whole picture. It
Right.
really only gives me, if an animator is this,
Mm.
pie. Imagine I'm holding up a pie chart. If an animator is this, your demo reel is this. It's like maybe like a sixth of it, or like an eighth,
Oh wow.
or
Okay.
maybe even a quarter.
The demo reel is definitely kind of like the artist's um, business card or like cover, just to try to sell or make it look shiny so that people will want to talk to you, to get
Yeah.
you like the interview process so they could find out more about you. But I guess you were mentioning earlier about how at least with Cinesite, it goes through HR first, and they'll screen it, and then it goes through you. How does that work? Because there are they like what do they look
I
in
think
demo reels?
I think most studios do this as well, because I think like I think they're I'm not 100% sure, honestly, to be completely frank. I'll say part of it is probably like stuff that's obvious. Like I think it's stuff that, like, let's say we're hiring for senior animation roles, and
Mm.
we get something that's like, this is very clearly a person who's fresh out of school or still in school kind of
Mm.
reel. It's that the basic acting exercises, and the animation that's like you can tell, like even HR can tell, if
Oh,
it's
okay.
and so it's really just kind of more of like a filter. It's I don't think it's a very very basic filter as well, because
Yeah.
when it gets to me, a lot of times still when it gets to me, there's still a wide range of interpretation, and like the stuff that's like, yeah, this person's clearly not ready
Yeah.
for me. But they're more of a general filter, because I imagine, like, it's an online application, right? It's just like anyone can apply.
Mm.
Somebody needs to look through those, and even if it's like, not to say there's like joke applicants, maybe
Mm.
there might be some joke applicants, I don't know, but anyone can apply. So
Right. I
it would
see. I see.
be it wouldn't be in my best the my best time to go through, and find what's like, actually worth looking at. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like I said, I think it's Cinesite, it's HR. I think most places it's that, or sorry, I say HR. There's a recruiting department, which in my mind they're kind of hand in hand,
Synonymous.
but yeah, there's a recruiting team. It's very similar kind of people role to HR.
Mm.
It's just more of an external HR versus internal. Yeah, sorry, wrong terminology there. But a lot of studios do that, and so oftentimes it'll go through. It has to go through them before it gets to like an animator's eyes.
Right.
But again, it's it's really just like a basic filter.
crowd animators are considered like the junior or the entry level to feature, because I think it's rare for me to find junior animator positions posted online. It's either like animator or senior or and above, and then every now and then you see like crowd animator, but it's I guess like I don't know. Do people get stuck in that crowd animator role, kind of like how TV is, or are they? Is it just like a temporary thing where they can move up out of it? How does that
So,
work?
so I guess I'll clarify and say, like, I mean, for Cinesite specifically, we're kind of using crowds as a as a entry level. We have sometimes hired less lately, but we for a while we were hiring junior animators as entry level as well, or sorry, tech animators. Tech animators are actually more of the entry level job, and that role has evolved quite a bit at Cinesite as well. But what it used to be was kind of like a mixed bag of like you're doing some quota, like a little bit of quota, but you're also like you're predominantly doing fix work. So if stuff comes back from like CFX, for example, going, okay, we need to fix this IP because it's causing our cloth to our sim to break, that'll go to like a tech animator. The roles have evolved over the years. So excuse me, we do still have tech animators, but now they're kind of more like if you're being hired for tech animator role, it's more of a technical role actually now. It's like it's less animation and it's more like this gap between animation and CFX. I'd say like it's just kind of a weird nebulous zone. And I think we're still working on developing it further as well. But lately, as we've been doing more and more work on shows that involve crowds. For a while, we didn't have a crowds team actually at Cinesite, and so that was a particularly challenging thing for me on Addams Family 1, was that we had a lot of crowd sequences in Addams Family 1, but we didn't have crowd animators. So how do we make this work?
Yeah, I guess like talking about like juniors and whatnot. When you go through like reels, what's like the common mistake you see like junior animators make when trying to get hired?
I don't know if there's a common mistake. Let me think about it. I know I didn't touch on this, but I know when you're doing a reel, obviously if you're a student, you're what you have available to show is typically pretty limited. You only have your student pieces, so you're kind of stuck. But as you start doing more and more stuff, whether that's personal projects or whether that's like freelance stuff here and there, ideally you want to show only your best work, and meaning that ideally your the very first shot in your reel is your best shot, or at least what you feel is your strongest shot. I've heard different ways of this being presented. I think of the sandwich technique where you start and end with your two best shots, and then your shots in between are kind of like your good shots, but they're not your best shots, and whatever for padding it out. There's a lot of different like lines of thought for how to set up a reel. I don't think there's any one best way. I don't look at a reel and go, I see you didn't follow the sandwich technique. I'm not gonna hire this. Like I don't really care. I have a little bit more patience than some people. I will, unless the reel is really really hard to watch, or if I know right off the bat that this person's not for the role that I want, I will watch the entire reel, because I'm it's not, again, what some people think is their best shot might not be, and vice versa. Some they might say, right, yeah, I mean this shot's all right, but it's like, well, this is the shot that got you hired. So anyway, so I'll watch through the whole thing. But yeah, I think typically you really want to try to keep it your best work. Really, I would say probably the biggest mistake is putting something on your reel just to make it longer. And even if it's like, even if deep down in your heart, this is the worst shot. I do not like, I don't want this on my reel, but I'm putting it on because I want my reel to be a minute long. I don't care if it's a minute long. I do care if it's like 3 or 4 minutes long or 5 minutes long. don't make your reel that long. 1 or 2 minutes, especially if you're brand new, especially if you're a junior in the industry. There's absolutely no reason to have a 2-minute reel. Honestly, if you're brand new in the industry, 30-second reel is probably fine.
Yeah, that's a good take for like I would say it's just like don't put in stuff just to fill out the time
Yeah,
because just keep it nice, short, and sweet. Like I think that's just like a animator's rule where we like the KISS rule, keep it simple,
yeah,
and then just like keep it short and sweet, and then it'll be more of a teaser. I think that I feel like a lot of animators who've
yeah,
been in the industry for a while, just like I just want to see a good 30 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, fine too. It was just all really amazing stuff. Uh, and it doesn't have to be really long or anything like that either. You mentioned hiring for like different seniority level. How do you like differentiate? Like what makes it a senior reel and what makes it like a mid level animator or what makes it a junior animator reel that kind of like that you can tell? Like what signs are there to show that?
Um, it's a good question. It's a hard one to answer
Yeah.
because some of it is instinct. Honestly, like you can watch a reel and you can go, okay, I can see this guy. it's it's not really it's not really like a checklist of stuff where it's like, okay, I can check this box, this box, this box, this box. Okay, he's a senior because he's checked 4 boxes out of 6, or whatever. It's kind of more like you can get a feeling for it. You could see like maybe the most general way to put it is that I guess it is okay. Maybe it's an invisible checklist. It's an invisible checklist that only I know and only I can feel. But like, when I'm seeing your stuff, like, does your how's your body mechanics? And again, I know earlier on I mentioned that maybe that's not super important for the show, but I mean, if you have bad body mechanics on a reel, it's going to look bad for you anyway. Like I said, so if I'm looking at a reel just as a more general piece of like, I'm just looking for a senior animator who can do stuff. I'm looking for somebody who is well-rounded, ideally. So they can do cartoony, but they also can do naturalistic, and they also can do strong physical stuff, and they also can do subtlety, and they also can do da 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 da. So in that sort of sense, if you're a senior and you're trying to cater your reel, maybe keep that in mind. As again, you want to try to keep yourself looking broad.
I could see what you're talking about. Yeah. So it's just more of like there's always like an invisible checklist depending on the person looking. Obviously, in your case, it's more of just you just want to see more. I mean, the demo reel doesn't show the person's soft skill, how they interact with people, how they take direction, that sort of thing, and it's kind of like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be very challenging. But and you're more willing to let some minor mistakes go that you might see, like just like a slight pop here and there or whatever. But like it's just one pop out of like a good chunk of demo reel. It might be like okay, it's okay. You're more or less willing to forgive that, versus like I'm sure like if you go with like a senior, it's like everything must be practically perfect because you're more or less.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, but even then, it's a lot of it will come down to matter of taste as well. And so,
Well, I guess like let's move on from like senior mid and and go on to like lead. What advice do you have for like animators who wants to jump into like a lead or supervisor role someday?
Soft skills, again, I think would be very key. I'm going to say anecdotally again. I've worked with some. I've worked with some leads who were absolutely amazing senior animators, but did not make good leads. And on the flip side, I've worked with some animators who maybe mid or high mid level, like they're good. They're not the best animators I've ever worked with, but they make amazing leads. And so I don't know if this is so much advice. I don't know how you'd say it, but like soft skills are going to be very, very important. Your animator eye is going to be very, very important. Like, you know, your ability to watch something and, you know, spot areas that could be improved. You know, we could push. But, you know, really it's, you know, coming down to, you know, are you organized? Are you able to work with people, many different kinds of people? Because there's, you know, the industry is attracts all sorts of kinds of people, and various ego levels. I'll just say is, you know, so some people are a little bit more tricky to work with, and, you know, how is your handling of them? And it's more so as a supervisor. So, you know, it can be very complicated. It's a very complicated role, I think.
Yeah.
But
More on like the lead and supervisor part, like how do you guide a team to maintain like both the quality and consistency under pressure? Because that's what deadlines can be tough, and keeping that consistency is it's just as rough, I would imagine.
it can be tough. I think that, again, that's kind of like partly where the bidding process comes in and the casting process comes in, as a way to like to try to solve things, you know, on day one. But,
Gotcha.
you know, things happen, and, you know, it's honestly it's very hard to predict. It is like a new challenge every time it comes up, because, you know, sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, production needs this sequence to deliver by a certain date because we need to feed CFX or lighting. Otherwise, they're going to be in downtime because they're going to have no work to do. So it's like, all right. So we can't negotiate the deadline here because we need to do this. And so, like, you know, it is challenging. Honestly, there's not really. I don't think I can give you just a quick answer to that. I think there would be. I think it does come down a lot to the specific challenges. But, like, you know, I mean, if I'll say specifically, if the sequence is behind, then the strategies become how can we pick up the pace, and how can we make up for lost ground? You know, is there anything that we can do? Like, is there you know, can we recast things? Can we, you know, if we recast this shot to this person who works really fast and is starting to run out of shots, and, like, if we can we pull this person off of this sequence that does not have an imminent deadline, just to help out, you know, just to get this sequence that needs to be done in 2 weeks, you know, is that an option? So, I mean, so basically there's a lot of talk with production. There's a lot of talk with, you know, sometimes other departments trying to find some creative solutions for, you know, we can't figure out a way to do this in animation and get it done on time, but maybe if we gave this character to the crowds team to help out, or if CFX or if simulation can help.
Why don't we take a break away from all those lead questions, and we'll go to a random question. So right now, I guess with AI on the rise and everything, do you see that used in in like your studio as part of production? Like it's obviously used in like mocap and whatnot, but like from like the animated feature side, have you seen it used, or is there? What are your thoughts about it? About it entering the
It,
industry?
it's I can probably talk an hour about AI, so I won't. But so it's touchy, right? Because I think the thing with AI is that a lot of people are very scared about it taking away jobs. I don't think, and this could just be me, you know, predicting the future very, very poorly. I don't see it as taking away jobs. I see it as being another tool in the toolbox at the end of the day. And so, what I mean by that is that, I mean, you know, excuse me. Let's use an example. You know, 2D. You know, when Toy Story came around, and 3D kind of took over the market. Obviously, like, I mean, maybe that's not the best example, because 3D did take over the market, but
Yeah.
it didn't really get rid of jobs. It kind of changed the jobs, right? It changed the landscape of jobs, and, you know, the demands for the 2D animation went down, and the demands for 3D went up. I think at the end of the day, we still needed, people, but I don't, I don't. So, yeah, I don't. Sorry. So there's AI is a very broad thing as well. I think when we say AI, one of the big things that comes to mind is generative AI, which is like Chat GPT and all those like really neat neat sort of clips of like, oh, AI just animated this woman walking on the beach, or animated this cat playing with a candle or whatever. And it's like, okay, I mean, it's cool, but AI as a whole is a very very broad spectrum. I don't think generative AI is going to take over animation jobs. I feel like there's way too there's way too many challenges in making a film that generative AI is not capable of solving.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Good to hear your input about it. But I do agree. Like, I think it's great to have as a tool.
Yeah,
Where we'll see, like, I mean, it's still early days in AI, so we'll see. And there's always like improvements to be made. But where we'll see where it goes in like a decade from now. Technology tends to move fast, so who
yeah.
knows, right? Any last words or advice that you can give like animators or inspiring animators?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess don't give up. Especially right now. Like I said, I think the job market is coming back. I think it's bouncing back a little bit. I don't know where it's going to, like how much it's going to bounce back up to, but the industry is cyclical, meaning that yes, it's going to get better, but it's also going to get worse again, and then it's going to get better again, and it's going to get worse again. So don't let don't let the dips get you down. I mean, always, keep at it. If it's what you truly are passionate about, and it's really what you see yourself doing, and it's really what you want to do.
But I guess with that, I think let's wrap it up. Thank you, Ryan, for your time. I'm sure like your kid is patiently waiting for you by your side, tapping her toes for you to
Yeah,
wrap up. So I'm sure you're all busy, and thanks a lot for just sharing your knowledge and just like insight on the featured film industry. Great to catch up with you as well. We'll probably
yeah.
just catch up more offline later
We,
on.
we should we should do that. I'll ping you on the side and see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, want to share like a special thanks to ukumavfx.com. Thank you for just hosting it and having me back again. I don't know why you have me back hosting, but if anybody's interested, they are also another online school that is more focused on VFX and special effects, or they have a lot of I guess classes and courses you can take as well for people who wants to know more. I'm sure later on in the future they'll have plenty of more opportunities for more interviews similar to this one, where they could just share, where industry professionals share their insights. Let's see. Aside from that, Ryan, do you have any plugs or anything? Do you have like a social media or anything people want to connect to you, stuff like that? Or if not,
Uh,
that's fine.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's there's not many Ryan Schaller animators on LinkedIn, so I'm sure you can just do a search, you'll find it. I'm not really big into social media, so that's if you're looking to find me, that's probably the best way to reach out to me, at least on a professional level.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, cool. Thanks. Uh, and obviously, for more information and in the future, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, or whatever it is that people do. Uh, and just like that, thank you everyone for your time.
Cool.
Have a good one.
See you guys.